Someone once said, the reason fear is embedded in the black man is that during the slavery era in the West Indies, the USA, the slave masters usually complained of their slaves being recalcitrant. The black people. We all know that. So one slave master, I think his name was really Lynch. He devised a method which is lynching. That was where the word lynching came to existence. When the slaves were very, very recalcitrant, what he did was this. He devised a diabolic strategy in order to keep the slaves sober and obedient. So he selected some black slaves, and majority of them were pregnant. And he took 2 horses and placed facing opposite directions. Now took a black slave and undressed her and tied both hands and legs to the 2 horses and beat the horses to run on opposite directions. And they ran and tore the slave apart. Put fear in the minds of the rest of the pregnant slaves who were watching, which later on affected their mindset and the babies in their homes. And in the long run, the fear virus seeped into the genes of the black people. That is why fear is a part and parcel of the black man. The scripture says, train your child the way he or she should grow, so that when they grow old, they will not depart from it. That child you have to train is your mind. You fail training your biological children, even if how hard you try, because your own child within you, which is your mind, has not been properly trained. The mind is like a muscle. The more you train it by meditating, the more it develops. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. That's why it is written, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. All of this happened in the mind. What the scripture is recounting, authorities, the rulers, the power of darkness, they are all in the mind. Remember, it is written that the kingdom of heaven is within you, and the kingdom of the Most High suffereth violence, and the violent taketh it by force. Both good and evil dwell in man. A man once asked me a question that, why didn't the Most High just destroy the devil to free man? Also, why was man created? If you've been asking yourself this same question, here is the answer. Man was created for one of the reasons was to overcome evil. Psalm 110 verse 1 says, and Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Genesis chapter 1 verse 26 to 28 says, then Yahuwah the Most High said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, so that he may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all creatures that move along the ground. 27 says, so Yahuwah the Most High created mankind in his image. In the image of Yahuwah the Most High, he created them. Male and female created them. 28, and Yahuwah the Most High blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. You're hearing this part of it, subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. I will create a video that I will explain the fishes in the sea and the birds in the sky and the animals on the ground, for us to understand all of this, that all of these things happen in the mind of man. That is where the true war is. Man was created in order to engage or inhabit both evil and good. Just like a trap or a snare is set for a snake, and in the trap there is a squirrel or an eagle to kill the snake. Once the snake enters into the trap, it is locked from outside. Nobody goes out until one is defeated and owns the trap and everything inside. That's why Luke chapter 11 verse 21 to 22 says, when a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace. But when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overcome him, he taketh from him all his armor, wherein he trusted, and divided his spoils. And Ecclesiastes chapter 6 verse 10 says, whatever exists has already been named and what humanity is has been known. No one can contend with someone who is stronger. So you are already stronger than the enemy. That's why the scripture says he had already been crushed. You know, in the spirit realm, good repairs evil. That's why it is written that we were once far away from him because of sin. So the Most High created the human vessel or the human tent in order to trap the devil or evil and to crush it. How do we crush evil or the devil? It's by resisting and not giving heed to his voice. That's why it's written, submit yourselves therefore to the Most High and resist the devil and he will flee away from you. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 to 9 says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Verse 9 says, resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. Resist all these thoughts of the enemy. You know, the authorities that the scripture is mentioning are the ones in control of the bombardment of these hyper negative signals and thought patterns. The rulers are the thoughts that control and rule and ruin our lives. The powers are the forces that always pull us towards this. A man once said, never you underestimate the power of the media. They will use imagery to captivate you or to lure you to it. Don't heed to it. You know, like I earlier said, the human mind functions just like the transformer of the TV or radio channels or other devices. Once a child is born, he is a receiver. His mind is receptive to anything around him. At one stage of his life, he becomes the transmitter, which means he starts giving out back what he has received or he had received. That's why the society is what it is today, because many people received the wrong signals or wrong education at infants. That's why many of them are broadcasting or showcasing what they received as kids. Another stage, the stage of equilibrium, is the transceiving stage, where the child receives and transmits at the same time, or where you receive and transmit at the same time. You become both a receiver and a transmitter. A stage of what I give is what I receive. The Messiah said, I do what I see my Father doing. That is a transceiving stage. It's like a river bed that new water always flows upon it. As it receives water, it gives it out immediately. Also a vacuum that has open ends. You are a producer of your thought and a consumer of your thought or commodity or goods. You operate interdependently of your surroundings or your environment. That's why the Messiah says, we are in the world, but not of the world, because what we receive is not coming from the world, it's coming from the divine. That's what we call hyper-consciousness and the ability of free will, where you can successfully blend both the subconscious and the conscious mind together to operate or function in unison that breeds to the hyper-consciousness. If two make peace in a house, there is absolutely nothing that can be more than you. You can say to this mountain, be thou removed, and it will be removed. How can you remove the dirt in one's eyes if you cannot remove the log in your own eyes? You know, most parents want to discipline their biological kids. Meanwhile, they have not yet disciplined the kid in them, which is their subconscious mind. You are stopping your child from what you cannot help yourself with. Come out of it, then you can be able to bring out the child of it. You know, the peace is the balance between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. That means the emotions and the logic. And strongholds are chronic habits and behaviors that we can't easily let go. And powers in darkness are the negative thoughts crowded in our mind.